Okay, so in today's news, CNN drops another bad poll on Democrats. And ICE officials just completed the largest deportation operation in history. And lastly, it looks like federal agents made a mistake when they detained a Democrat staffer.
Yeah, you would think after all of the waves, Kate Baldwin, after the last few months, the first 5 months of the Donald Trump presidency, right, the first 4 months of the Donald Trump presidency, that you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error. Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
Well, we're picking up where we left off yesterday, and that is this damaging poll that continues to show bad news for Democrats, great news for Republicans. But let me be fair here. I don't trust Republicans either, because we know they don't get anything done in Congress. They're in control, and what have they accomplished up to this point? However, the American people still trust Republicans more than they do Democrats for good reason. Let's not forget what happened under Joe Biden: high record inflation, high cost of living, and a mass invasion at our southern border. What more else do you need to explain why that poll says what it says? Well, according to Democrats, they're not reacting to this very well, especially on CNN. This is what they think about the numbers. Take a look.
The poll also asks which party best reflects their view on a range of issues. And when it comes to crime, the economy, immigration, Republicans still hold an advantage, although actually those numbers are starting to slip. How did you think about this poll as you were looking through?
I couldn't help but be reminded about a big problem in my part of the world, the econ part of the world. We can't get a clean read on how consumers feel about the economy because the data has been infected by partisanship, really in an unprecedented manner. So,
meaning your partisanship reflects whether or not you think the economy is good or not?
Do people think the economy is not doing well, or do they just not like who's in the White House? This is a huge problem right now, and it's making it impossible to get that clarity that economists like to see about how consumers are doing. Do they intend to spend? Makes it impossible to forecast.
So in other words, voters aren't struggling. They're just biased. That's what she's chalking it up to. And I would actually call that a very disrespectful take. And I think it's ignorant. And I say that because what she's not doing is acknowledging the damage that was done under Joe Biden. The American people have not forgotten that. You have to think about just one metric. Let's just use a simple one: gas. It used to be $5 a gallon under Joe Biden. Now it's $3. The American people remember that every single day, but she doesn't. And people like her refuse to. So it's no shocker why the polls are what they are, regardless of her own take, chalking it up to just political bias. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah, if it was just this one CNN poll, that would be one thing. But take a look at Reuters Ipsos. What do we see here? Party with a better economic plan. Well, in May of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected president, Republicans had a 9-point advantage. Look at where we are now in May of 2025. The advantage actually went up by 3 points. Now Republicans have a 12-point advantage when it comes to the party with a better economic plan. And again, this is after months of supposed economic uncertainty, in which the stock market's been going bonkers, in which the tariff wars that Americans are against have been going on. And yet, despite all of that, the Democrats are down by 12 points on the economy. This speaks to Democratic problems on the economy better than basically anything that you could possibly look at. The Republicans still hold an advantage on the all-important key issue of the day. And that is the reason why, even if Donald Trump's approval ratings are a little bit lower than they used to be, Republicans are not out of the ballgame because they still have a clear advantage on the economy, whether you look at CNN's polls or whether you look at the Ipsos poll right here, in which they have a 12-point advantage on the economy, Kate.
Yeah, so the bottom line, folks, is that Democrats do not have anything to say when it comes to the economy at this point because nobody believes them. They have zero credibility. That's just what it is. And unfortunately, Democrats are making the huge mistake by using the economy as their main talking point right now. They claim they are the party that is going to drive down the high cost of living, even though they were the party that caused the high cost of living. Now, not all Democrats think that way. And so what I'm going to show you here is a former battleground state campaign director for Kamala Harris. he actually makes sense in the way that he's seeing this. Take a look.
It's not clear to the American people that we're fighting for them in their everyday lives. We get stuck in issues partly because I think we can't help it sometimes. And there's an article in the New York Times today that we talked about earlier that has this notion of the moralizing, the kind of patronizing, preachy version of the Democratic Party on all sorts of issues, not just how the government should function, but how you should live your lives. That version of us is not very popular. That's got to change, and we have to get back to basics and talking about what really affects everyday Americans every day. There also needs to be a brand reset in the sense of the candidates that we have, who can communicate effectively, how can they cut through, do they have the confidence to inspire that sort of leadership following ability that they can have in the campaign. That's not been present for a little bit. I think that the opportunity to turn the page in 2028 is there. And by the way, Republicans are going to have to turn the page to some extent as well, because this will be a first election without Trump on the ballot in 12 years for president. It's going to look very different across the board.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is what's worse. The people who are considered to be the biggest voices and leaders of the Democrat Party, we're talking Jasmine Crockett, AOC, people like that, or the fact that they are continuing to ignore the numbers. The numbers and the results show that Democrats have zero credibility. 2, they do not respect the working class. All you have to do is look at their policies. And number 3, culturally, they're just out of it. They do not relate to the average American. And to provide more proof of that, take a look at this.
Historically speaking, which is the party of the middle class has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989 when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022 where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error. And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class, it is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away, and now a key advantage for Democrats historically has gone adios amigos, and now there is no party that is the party of the middle class. Republicans have completely closed the gap, Kate.
Okay, so while Democrats, I guess, are lying about these polls and trying to complain that it's skewed due to political bias, the Trump administration, particularly ICE, they're doing what they were elected to do, which brings us to our next story. One of the largest deportation operations have just been executed in Massachusetts, of all places. Hear it for yourself.
Welcome back. Fox News Alert. You're taking a live look in Boston, where any minute now we are expecting a major news conference in that sanctuary city of Boston, where ICE is going to give an update and announce what turned out to be their biggest immigration operation enforcement ever. It's called Operation Patriot. ICE sources telling Fox News that during the month of May, agents arrested nearly 1,500 illegal aliens throughout the whole state of Massachusetts, some of them in sanctuary jurisdictions which don't cooperate. And listen to this, 790 of those arrested had criminal convictions or charges. 277 had final orders of removal, deportation orders. Last week, I had the chance to exclusively embed with ICE agents while they made some of these arrests. Many of them illegal aliens with very violent, egregious criminal histories, like this Salvadoran man who's on his country's most wanted list with an Interpol Red Notice warrant for aggravated murder and aggravated kidnapping, and another Salvador native convicted of child rape. We're told he was deported back in 2017. He snuck back in illegally and was found living right next to a children's playground.
Is that unusual out here?
Not in Massachusetts. It's not unusual. Due to the open border policies, we are finding that plenty of people who have been previously deported and committed heinous crimes and were removed from the country are now back here, just living among us. And now that's our job to go round them up.
All right, now before we go any further, let's hear from today's sponsor. So it's no secret that the Fed Chair Jerome Powell is keeping interest rates sky high. And guess who pays the ultimate price? You do. See, it's harder than ever to qualify for a loan, a mortgage, even a basic credit card, no matter how hard you worked on your credit. That's why I partnered with MDW Credit Solutions, because they fight for you. They go straight to the credit bureaus, file real disputes, help with removing late payments, collections, charge-offs, and whatever else is holding you back. And right now, they're giving my viewers an exclusive deal. Just $79 a month, you get a full audit, unlimited disputes, monthly updates, and real human support, not some overseas bot. So call 559-608-4242 or go to mdwcreditsolutions.com/Devori or hit the link in the description below. All right, so number one, the bad news is this. Massachusetts, particularly the political leaders there, will not actually applaud what ICE was able to do here. They do not support them. They are going to come out and say that, once again, ICE is terrorizing our neighborhoods. You can guarantee it. Now, secondly, which is good news, local law enforcement did work with ICE agents here, which allowed this to take place. So that's a great thing. And finally, it's just more of a great thing, I suppose, that they're allowed to finally do their job. Get the criminal illegal aliens out of our country ASAP. Now, here's Todd Lyons and what he had to say about this operation. Take a listen.
One highlight for this operation is the fact that it was successful because we worked with our joint partners in a sanctuary state like Massachusetts, where it's extremely difficult. Where we had Operation Tidal Wave last month in Florida, there was a week-long operation working with our state partners. That's a state that cooperates with us. Here in Massachusetts, we don't have any cooperation from the local departments or from the state, which makes it extremely difficult for ICE to get out there and find these bad guys.
And that is the unfortunate part about sanctuary city policies, right? They do not want to work with federal law enforcement agencies, particularly ICE, in an effort to deport illegal aliens. That is really disgusting, in my opinion. I'm sure they can meet halfway like New York City has done with the mayor there. And a lot of people think he was, strong-armed into doing it. The fact of the matter is, sanctuary cities does not help local citizens. It hurts them. And I guarantee if we truly did the numbers and the studies, we could prove that easily, okay? Now, let's go to what the White House press secretary had to say about this. Take a look.
Well, there's certainly a concern that the previous administration allowed way too many terrorists and illegal immigrants into the interior of our country. And that's why the Department of Homeland Security is working overtime to arrest, detain, and deport as many illegal criminals and terrorists that we can in the United States of America. And any act of violence will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Now, Homeland Security posted more details about the people they arrested during this Operation Patriot, which is a great name here. And here are some of the photos, as you guys can see. Now, most of them definitely were arrested for the R word, as you guys know. And that's more than enough to get these people out of our country. And it's just fascinating to me that Democrats will not acknowledge this operation as a success. And all of it is usually they're assaulting children, right? There's battery. They're committing crimes against American citizens. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I guess for Democrats, compassion is much more important than the rule of law. And that's why in our next story, both sides have a compelling argument here in regards to enforcing immigration law. It is being reported that a staffer from Congressman Nadler in New York was briefly detained by federal agents inside the congressman's office. This happened last week, and now it's blowing up, and so we're going to talk about it. Let's first hear the details. Take a look.
All right, we're learning new details about an incident in which New York Congressman Jerry Nadler says federal agents forcefully entered his New York office. Footage of the incident shows one of the congressman's aides being handcuffed by a federal agent from the Department of Homeland Security on Wednesday. CNN correspondent Gloria Pazmino is following all of this. I mean, pretty alarming video. What's the story behind it? What's happened from there?
Yeah, Fred, what you have here is definitely two very different versions of the story. You have the Department of Homeland Security claiming that these officers were there to do a security check, and you have Nadler's chief of staff saying that that is a complete fabrication.
Yeah, so this is the type of story that if you are a true conservative frustrates you the most, especially if you're libertarian, okay? The bottom line is this: the Trump administration, they got it wrong here. The Department of Homeland Security. Let me explain to you why. There's something called the Fourth Amendment. It clearly states that it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're an FBI agent, an ICE officer, local police, sheriff, you do not have access to private spaces, i.e. congressional offices, without what? A judicial warrant. Now, when I had to actually look this up and verify it for myself, I couldn't believe it. You can't even access these spaces unless there's a clear emergency. Protesters do not equal emergency in this situation. And also, the staffers did not give consent to these law enforcement officials. And so they were not actually in pursuit of anybody who was running into the building, so to speak, running away from officers. So DHS really doesn't have a case here. In fact, this is just a clear mistake. Now, if you're on Newsmax, I'm sure you disagree with what I just said. Take a look.
You know, it reminds me of a great John Wayne quote. life is tough. It's a lot tougher when you're stupid. Just don't do stupid things and you won't have to face these consequences. And it's very simple. There was protesting going on outside of the courthouse. Some Nadler staff allegedly invited some of those protesters into the office, and that's why they showed up. No one was arrested. No one was taken and booked. A woman interfered with them performing a security check. She was temporarily held out in the hallway and said, you need to stay out here while we conduct our search. That's all there was to it.
Okay, well, number one, what authority did they have to search a congressional office, which is considered a private space, which you're not allowed to do without a judicial warrant? You can't even use a warrant from Department of Homeland Security or an administrative warrant. Those are not even allowed. So again, if you're a conservative here and you don't like big government, you should be calling this out. See, we call out Democrats every single day, but when our party makes a mistake, we should call it out too, because if we don't, we're no better than them. That's the first thing. Secondly, she is correct about something, though. If you're impeding an investigation of law enforcement officials, you can expect to be detained. And that's exactly what happened with the staffer. She refused to let them into the office, and so she was detained as a result. But again, what overshadows that? They had no business being in there in the first place. And so this takes me to your reaction, right? We had 3 clear stories in this video. Let's start with what I just discussed. Do you agree with me here? Do you think the federal agents were in the wrong here? According to the U.S. Constitution, we're supposed to be the party of law and order. And so let me know if you agree that they got this wrong. Number 2, damaging poll once again for Democrats, right? It continues to confirm what we already know, but we're going to talk about it every time it comes up because I know Democrats won't believe it. Like I showed you, they're claiming that the numbers are skewed. And what about the positive result in the largest deportation out of the state of Massachusetts of all place? Good for the ICE agents that they found success there. Let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comment section below. All right, now in the next video you're going to want to check out, there was a terror attack in Boulder, Colorado. You got to hear what the police chief said as a reaction moments after it happened, and also Elon Musk and his full interview with CBS. So if you missed out on those stories, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.